Welcome to Lecture 1, where I'll be teaching you about how to construct your CV or your resume. What's the difference between the two? A resume literally means a shortened version, and CV is Latin for curriculum vitae, which means in the course of your life, which is a little bit of a longer document, anything between 4 to 6 pages. Now, in constructing your CV, there are many online tools and apps that help you to put your CV together. Zeti.com is an example of it, and you can have any other online CV creations. It's not my intention to direct you to a particular website. It's just my intention to let you know that there are these online tools that can help you put CVs together for free. Go find something that makes sense for you. What's important for me to share with you on this video is what to have on hand before you put those CVs together using those online tools. Because what I don't want you to do is to be swayed by some of these online CV creations, because most of them come with their pre-populated, cliched phrases. And at the end of it, I don't want your CV looking like a template. It needs to market you and brand you. And in order to do that, you need to do some work behind the scenes in order to prep for those online CVs. In this video, I'll share with you what I'm going to be asking you to prepare before you put those CVs together. Let's get started. The first that you need to put together is a cover letter. A cover letter is a one-page summary introducing your CV. Here's what your cover letter should include. Your cover letter should include your address details so that they can get in touch with you, whoever you are applying to. You need to address the cover letter to someone. Avoid saying something like "to whom it may concern." Either address it to a person or a particular position in the company that you are applying to. The subject line must be specific in reference to an advert or a particular position. Keep the opening lines and the body very high level. Your cover letter should not be a motivation as to why the company should be hiring you, more an introduction of your CV. So say something like, "with regard to the position, find attached your curriculum vitae." Now, because curriculum vitae is Latin, they should always be in italics. Remember that. Your cover letter should end with a brief summary of how the company can get in touch with you. Always include your cell phone number and a landline, including an email address. Now, when it comes to email addresses, keep your email address nice and simple and easy for the company to get in touch with you. And finally, end off in a nice, light way, not something that's almost arrogant to say that you're going to be seeing them at the interview, but something light to say, "Thank you for considering my application." And with that, your cover letter is done. Let's now look at what you need to consider when putting together your CV. Your CV always starts off with biographical details, and I've given you a bit of a summary in terms of what are the minimum requirements that you need to have on hand. Then move on to the educational background. Everything that you put into your CV is your most current information, and then it moves on to the earliest information. When it comes to your educational details, put a summary of your current qualifications, your most highest qualification, moving down to your earliest qualifications. Follow this up with your educational background, starting with any studies that you are currently completing. And then put down all the details of where you have completed your qualifications. Once you have done that, move on to employment history. Again, a high-level summary of your current employment, moving down to the earliest, with more detail as to where you have completed these employment history. Always include dates in terms of start and end dates. And if you have any gaps in your employment history, you need to be able to explain that. Have a section in your CV that has achievements and positions held. And again, separate this in terms of your employment, university, and school. Because when you show this consistency in your achievements and leadership positions that you hold, it's a good signal for the employer or whoever's reviewing your CV that you are consistently taking up certain positions or achieving things in your life. When you are putting together your experience, avoid having this big shopping cart list of roles and responsibilities that you have completed. Instead, have categories, headings and subheadings. Try to chunk similar information together under headings like month-end processes or weekly tasks or project management. And by doing so, you separate a big list into something that's more readable and easier on the eye. Remember that the people who are reviewing your CVs are busy themselves, so you don't want to be giving them lots of wordiness to try to review. When it comes to your computer literacy background, separate that list between your levels of experience: basic, intermediate, and advanced. Personal interest. Now remember that you are applying for a position. So as much as you want to put down all your hobbies, try not to. So have 3 lines, 1 line that includes some of your hobbies. Second is what drives you as a person. And third, what drives you in terms of your profession, your career. Once you do that, move on to personal motivation. Here you must assume that the employer is in front of you. What would you say to them? 3 lines that would convince them that they need to hire you. When you are putting this together, use lots of I statements. I have done this. I believe. Strong, powerful words, convincing words that almost is a motivation, speaking to the person as if they are in front of you. What would you say to them? 3 lines. And finally, your CV will end up with some references. Have at least 3 references. People who are equal or senior to you at the time of where you worked for them. When you are applying for this position, I would suggest that you give these references a call just to let them know the type of position that you're applying for. At least then they can expect the call and know where you are applying for so that they can remember some pertinent information that might be relevant for them to share with whoever gives them a call for your reference. Make sure that you have at least 2 contact numbers for your references and include an email address. What should you exclude on your CV? Avoid having clip art pictures. Don't let cheap clip art pictures sell you as a brand. Don't have these fancy page borders. Your CV should be nice and clean. The content of your CV should sell you, not fancy borders. Avoid having any self-portraits that is casual looking. If you are putting a self-portrait, have a professional picture of yourself and include that with, especially if they request for it. Avoid having your CV in a ring binder or plastic sleeves and folders. A simple staple will do. Avoid having negative comments of colleagues. So when you say why you have left a previous position, don't say you had a conflict with someone. Just say it was for career advancement. You don't need to include every award since your first grade. Your key achievements in school will do, and you also need to see the relevance of it in terms of your stage of your career. If you're in your mid-40s, putting your first grade achievements is not relevant. You don't need to have every single vacation job unless you're applying for your first position. You don't also need to have every single school since your first grade. You just need to have the school in which you have matriculated in. When it comes to emails, try to keep your email simple. So as an example, if you've got a long first name and a long surname, avoid having long first name dot long surname @gmail.com. Why am I saying this? Because I've often met people who did not get replies from companies because somewhere in that email address a letter was missing or misspelt, and so companies just didn't get in touch with you. So try to shorten your email addresses just to make it easier for companies to get in touch with you. In your CV, avoid having quotes of other people, according to so-and-so, they said. Now remember that those people are not applying for the position, you are. Or rather, you have your own quotes of what you have grown up with that motivate and drive you. In your CV, avoid having your salary expectations. This is the first phase of the recruitment process. You don't want to be including any salary indications. So what should you include? Remember that your CV should have a professional appeal. It should have that cover letter. Make sure that everything is accurate. It must be in logical order and sequence. I would suggest that you read and reread as many times as possible just to make sure that everything is accurate. Tailor your CV. So when you're applying for a position, look at the job spec of what they're looking for. If that particular job spec is looking for someone who is analytical, or is a quick thinker, or is adaptable, somewhere in your CV include those keywords. Why? Because most CVs are uploaded into servers, and when people look for relevant candidates, they put in these keywords, and if your CV has those keywords, then it sort of comes up into the pile. So make sure that you're always tailoring your CV for the job that you are applying for. Have lots of I statements. Don't speak of yourself in third language. So-and-so has done this, but you're speaking about yourself. Say, I have done this. So more subjective language. And finally, every now and then, just review and update your CV and keep it relevant. Before you go for that interview, please just double check your Google CV. So just put your name into Google and see what comes up. Maybe you have been quite active on social media pages, and I'm just saying you just want to make sure that your stuff is clean. So if you have been quite active and maybe some comments were irrelevant in terms of where you are now, and these were written many years ago, I would ask you that you clean up your Google CV just to make sure that when you are going into the interviews that you have a nice professional appeal and nothing is coming up that's weird for you. And there you have it. That's my tips for you in terms of putting your CV together. I hope you're going to go now, find those online CV creators, have this information on hand, and put your awesome CV together. I'll see you in the next lecture where I'll teach you about what to do once your CV has been moved from this big pile of possible applicants, and now you need to get into the interview room and how to deal with those interviews. I'll see you in the next lecture.